Marcus hadn't told anyone he was going into Hollowback Cave that afternoon. It was a Tuesday, late September, and the trails were empty. He parked his truck near the old ranger station, grabbed his headlamp and rope, and started the hike up the ridge. The air smelled like pine and wet earth. He'd been caving since he was 17. Now, at 34, it was one of the few things that still made him feel alive. His marriage had ended 6 months ago. Sarah took the kids to her mother's place in Ohio. The divorce papers were signed in July. Marcus didn't fight for custody. He told himself it was because he traveled too much for work. But the truth was darker than that. He didn't think he deserved them. He'd spent years emotionally absent, buried in his phone, in his hobbies, in anything that wasn't home. When Sarah finally left, he felt relief. And then, a month later, the guilt came. It sat on his chest every morning like a stone. He hadn't prayed in over a decade, not since his father's funeral. He remembered kneeling in that church, asking God to bring him back, and hearing nothing, just silence. Cold, empty silence. After that, he stopped asking. The mouth of Hollowback Cave was narrow, a crack in the limestone about 3 feet wide. Marcus squeezed through, feeling the cool air rise from below. He loved this part. The world above disappeared. Down here, it was just him, the rock, and the dark. He clicked on his headlamp and started descending. The first chamber was familiar. He'd been here twice before. Smooth walls, a ceiling that dripped, the faint sound of water somewhere deeper. He moved carefully, testing each handhold. The passage narrowed as he went deeper, twisting left, then right, then down again. His breathing echoed, his boots scraped against stone. He reached a junction he didn't recognize. 2 passages, one sloped gently down, the other looked tighter, more vertical. He checked his phone. No signal, but the GPS still worked. He marked his location and chose the tighter passage. It looked more interesting. Alias, before you keep going, comment where you're listening to this story from. Marcus wedged himself into the crack, shoulders turned, headlamp beam cutting through the blackness. The rock was cold against his chest. He shimmied down, feet searching for the next hold. The passage opened slightly, then tightened again. He exhaled, making himself smaller, and slipped through. And then he heard it, a low groaning sound, not wind, not water, rock. The sound came from above and behind him. He twisted his head, trying to look back, but the passage was too tight. His heartbeat quickened. The groan grew louder, deeper, like the mountain itself was shifting. And then the world moved. The rock face to his left buckled inward. A slab the size of a refrigerator broke free from the ceiling and slammed down into the passage behind him, sending a shockwave through the stone. Marcus screamed. Dust exploded into the air, choking him. He tried to move forward, but his left leg was pinned, not crushed, pinned, wedged between 2 slabs of limestone that had shifted when the ceiling gave way. He pulled, hard. His thigh screamed in pain, but the leg didn't move. He reached down, trying to feel how bad it was, and his fingers found the edge of the rock pressing into his calf. It wasn't cutting him. It was holding him like a vice. No, 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 no. He pulled again, twisting his hips, trying to wrench himself free. Nothing. The rock didn't budge. His breathing came in short, shallow gasps. The dust was starting to settle, but the air felt thicker now, heavier. He coughed, spitting grit from his mouth. He tried to calm down, tried to think. His phone. He reached into his pocket, pulled it out, and checked the screen. No signal. He opened the GPS app. The blue dot showed his location, deep in the cave, far from the entrance. No one knew he was here. No one was coming. He tried pulling his leg again, slower this time, testing different angles. The pain was sharp but manageable. The problem wasn't the pain. The problem was the rock. It was immovable. He tried pushing against the slab with his free foot, bracing his back against the opposite wall. The rock didn't shift even a millimeter. His chest tightened, not from the passage, from the realization. He was stuck, completely stuck. Hours passed. Marcus tried everything. He used his knife to chip away at the rock near his leg, but the limestone was dense and the knife was small. After an hour, he'd barely made a scratch. He tried digging with his hands, clawing at the gravel beneath the slab, hoping to create enough space to slide his leg out. His fingers bled. The space didn't grow. He checked his phone again. The battery was at 42%. He turned off the screen to save power. His headlamp was still on. He didn't know how long the batteries would last. He clicked it off. The darkness swallowed him whole. It was absolute, total, the kind of darkness that doesn't exist above ground. He couldn't see his hand in front of his face. He couldn't see anything. The only sound was his breathing and the distant mocking drip of water somewhere far below. He thought about Sarah, about the kids, about the last time he'd hugged his daughter, Emma. She was 7. She'd made him a drawing of a dinosaur. He'd smiled, said it was great, and then put it on the counter and forgot about it. He wondered if she still remembered that. He wondered if she thought about him at all. The guilt was worse than the pain. He thought about his father, about the funeral, about the silence. He thought about all the years he'd spent running from God, convinced that if he was real, he didn't care. Or worse, that he cared, but only for other people, not for Marcus. Never for Marcus. "Maybe I deserve this," he whispered into the dark. His voice sounded small, pathetic. He closed his eyes, even though it made no difference. The darkness was the same either way. More hours passed. He didn't know how many. Time felt strange down here. He drifted in and out of sleep, or maybe unconsciousness. His leg throbbed, his mouth was dry. He had a water bottle clipped to his belt, but he'd only brought one. He took a small sip, trying to ration it. The water was warm and tasted like plastic. He thought about dying, really thought about it. What it would feel like, how long it would take. Dehydration probably. 3 days, maybe 4, or maybe the air would run out first. He didn't know. He didn't want to know. He turned his headlamp back on. The beam was dimmer now. The batteries were dying. He looked at the rock pinning his leg. It was massive, easily 200 pounds, maybe more. There was no way he could move it alone. No way anyone could move it without equipment. He thought about praying. The idea felt foreign, almost ridiculous. What would he even say? He hadn't talked to God in years. Why would God listen now? But the silence was unbearable. "Okay," he said out loud, his voice cracking. "Okay, I don't know if you're real. I don't know if you're listening. But if you are, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. For Sarah, for the kids, for ignoring you, for thinking you didn't care. I can't die down here, please. I don't want to die down here." His voice broke. Tears came hot and fast, streaming down his face. He didn't try to stop them. "Please." The darkness didn't answer. His headlamp flickered. Once, twice. And then it went out. The blackness was complete. Marcus's breathing became shallow, panicked. He couldn't see. He couldn't move. He was alone. Totally, utterly alone. His heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. He tried to scream, but his throat was too dry. The sound came out as a rasp, and then he felt it, warmth. It started in his chest, just below his sternum, a gentle spreading warmth, like someone had placed a hand there. It wasn't painful. It wasn't frightening. It was comforting. The warmth grew, spreading outward into his arms, his legs, his face, and with it came a presence. He couldn't see it. He couldn't hear it. But he knew, with absolute certainty, that he was not alone. "Marcus." The voice was quiet, gentle, It didn't echo. It didn't come from any direction. It was just there, inside him, around him. "Who?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "Who are you?" "You know who I am." The tears came harder now. He didn't know why. He just knew. "Jesus?" "Yes." Marcus sobbed. His whole body shook. I don't understand. Why are you here? I haven't talked to you in years. I stopped believing. I thought you didn't care. I know." The warmth grew stronger, and then, impossibly, there was light. Soft, golden light, not from a source, but from everywhere at once. It didn't hurt his eyes. It didn't blind him. It just was. And standing in front of him, close enough to touch, was a man. He looked maybe 30. Dark hair, kind eyes, a face that was both familiar and impossible. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a worn jacket, like someone you'd pass on a hiking trail. But his presence was overwhelming. Not in a way that crushed or intimidated, in a way that filled every empty space Marcus had been carrying for years. Jesus knelt down, bringing himself level with Marcus's face. He smiled. It was the kind of smile an older brother gives you when you've scraped your knee as a kid. Gentle, understanding. "Why did you let this happen?" Marcus's voice was raw, angry. "Why didn't you stop it? I could die down here. I am going to die down here." Jesus didn't flinch. He just listened. "Where were you?" Marcus continued, his voice rising. "Where were you when Sarah left? Where were you when I was falling apart? Where were you when I needed you?" Jesus reached out and placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. His touch was real, solid, warm. "I was with you," he said quietly, "every single moment. I was there when you woke up alone. I was there when you drove Emma to school and couldn't find the words to say goodbye. I was there when you sat in your truck outside Sarah's mother's house and didn't have the courage to knock. I was there, Marcus. I never left. Then why didn't I feel you? Because you were looking for me in the wrong places." Jesus' voice was so gentle it hurt. "You were looking for me in answers, in explanations, in reasons. But I don't always give those. Sometimes I just give presents. And you weren't ready to accept that." Marcus stared at him, tears streaming. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you being here." "That's not how love works." Jesus tilted his head slightly, his eyes never leaving Marcus's. "Do you remember the drawing Emma made you? The dinosaur?" Marcus's breath caught. "How do you put it on the counter. You forgot about it. She waited 3 days for you to hang it up. You never did. She took it down and put it in her room. She still has it, Marcus. She looks at it sometimes and wonders if you ever really saw it." Marcus broke. Completely broke. His sobs echoed through the stone. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was so lost. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't know how to be anything." Jesus moved closer, wrapping his arms around Marcus's shoulders, pulling him into an embrace. "I know, and I forgive you. I forgave you before you even asked." They stayed like that for a long time. Marcus cried into Jesus' shoulder, and Jesus held him, patient, steady, unmoving. Finally, Marcus pulled back, wiping his face. "I'm still stuck. I'm still going to die down here." Jesus smiled again. "No, you're not. The rock is too heavy. I can't move it. No one can." "I can." Marcus stared at him. "You're going to... what? Move the rock?" "I'm going to shatter it." Jesus stood, his form rising in the golden light. He looked at the massive slab pinning Marcus's leg, and for a moment his expression grew serious. Not angry, not frustrated, just focused. He raised his right hand, palm open, fingers spread. "Marcus," he said, not looking away from the rock, I want you to understand something. This isn't just about freeing your leg. This is about freeing your heart. You've been trapped for a long time, not by stone, by shame, by guilt, by the belief that you're too broken to be loved. I'm not just breaking this rock, I'm breaking that lie. He closed his hand into a fist, and the cave shook. It wasn't an earthquake. It was something else, something deeper. The rock beneath Marcus vibrated, humming with a frequency he could feel in his bones. The slab pinning his leg began to glow, faintly at first, then brighter, veins of light spreading through the limestone like cracks in ice. Jesus spoke. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight, authority, the kind of voice that creation itself would recognize. Be broken. The slab exploded. Not into pieces, into dust. It disintegrated, crumbling into powder that fell away like sand, leaving Marcus's leg completely free. He gasped, pulling his leg toward him, checking for damage. There was a bruise, deep purple, but no blood, no broken bone, just the bruise. He looked up at Jesus, his mouth open, unable to form words. Jesus knelt again, placing his hand on Marcus's leg. The bruise faded. In seconds, it was gone. The pain disappeared with it. How? Marcus whispered. Because I love you, Jesus said simply, and I always have. The golden light grew brighter, filling the passage, pushing back the darkness. Marcus could see now. The entire chamber was illuminated. The walls, the ceiling, the passage behind him, all visible, all clear. Can you stand? Jesus asked. Marcus nodded, still in shock. He pushed himself up, testing his leg. It held. No pain, no weakness. He stood fully, and Jesus stood with him. I'm going to get you out of here, Jesus said. But first, I need you to listen. Marcus nodded, unable to look away from him. This moment, right here, is going to change everything. Your life will never be the same. People will ask you what happened. Some will believe you, some won't. That's okay. I'm not asking you to convince anyone. I'm asking you to live differently. Go back to Sarah, go back to Emma. Don't go back to fix what you broke. Go back to build something new. Go back humble. Go back honest. Go back ready to listen. Can you do that? Marcus's throat tightened. I don't know if she'll take me back. That's her choice, but you still have to try. You owe her that. You owe Emma that, and you owe yourself that. Marcus nodded, tears streaming again. I will. I promise. Jesus smiled. Good. He turned, facing the passage that led deeper into the cave. He raised both hands this time, palms forward. The way you came is blocked, but I'm going to give you a new way. He pushed his hands forward, and the rock obeyed. The wall in front of them split, not cracked, split. A clean, vertical line appeared in the limestone, and the two halves of the wall slid apart like doors, revealing a passage that hadn't existed before. Light poured through from the other end, not artificial light. Sunlight. Marcus stared. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible with me, Jesus said, turning back to him. Now go. Marcus hesitated. Will I see you again? Jesus stepped closer, placing a hand on Marcus's chest right over his heart. I'm always with you. You just have to remember to look. And then he was gone. The light remained, but Jesus vanished, as if he'd stepped out of reality itself. Marcus stood alone in the passage, staring at the open path in front of him. He took a breath, steadied himself, and started walking. The new passage was smooth, almost perfectly carved. It sloped gently upward, and the sunlight grew brighter with each step. Marcus climbed, his legs strong, his heart pounding not from fear but from something else. Hope, gratitude, wonder. He reached the mouth of the passage and stepped out into the afternoon sun. He was on the far side of the ridge, nearly a mile from where he'd entered. The forest stretched out below him, green and alive. He turned back, looking at the opening he'd just walked through. It was gone. The rock face was solid, unbroken, as if the passage had never existed. Marcus stood there for a long moment, his hand resting on the stone, and then he smiled. He pulled out his phone. Still no signal, but the GPS worked. He marked the location and started the hike back to his truck. By the time the Rangers found his truck 2 days later, Marcus had already driven to Ohio. He knocked on Sarah's mother's door at 7 in the morning, holding a drawing he'd bought supplies for on the drive. It was a dinosaur. Not as good as Emma's, but close. When Sarah opened the door, she looked at him with guarded eyes. "Marcus, I know I don't deserve this," he said quietly. "But I need to talk to you and Emma. I need to tell you what happened." She didn't let him in right away, but she didn't close the door either. 3 months later, a geological survey team was sent to Hollowback Cave after Marcus's report. They found the collapsed passage, the massive slab that had pinned him, and something they couldn't explain. The slab had been pulverized, not broken, pulverized into a fine powder that covered the floor of the chamber. The lead geologist, a man named Dr. Raymond Koss, wrote in his official report, "The structural failure of the limestone slab exhibits no identifiable cause. The pattern of disintegration is inconsistent with any known natural or mechanical force. Further study required." No further study was ever conducted. The cave was closed to the public permanently. But the story didn't die. Marcus told it to Sarah. He told it to Emma. He told it to the small group at the church they started attending together. And slowly, carefully, he began to rebuild his life. Not the life he'd lost, a new one, a better one. He still went caving sometimes, but never alone. And never without praying first. Emma's dinosaur drawing hangs in his office now, framed right next to a photo of the 3 of them taken last Christmas. Marcus looks at it every day, and every time he does, he remembers the warmth in the darkness. The voice that called his name, the hands that shattered the stone, and he remembers what Jesus told him. "I was always with you." Marcus believes it now. If this story touched you today, take a moment and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the miracles we experience aren't just for us. They're for the people we're meant to reach. God is still breaking rocks, and He's still setting people free.